This is the House of Orange Sports Channel. Frank coming at you. It's almost my favorite time of year. Tennessee baseball, 25 days away till first pitch against Nicholls State on Friday, February 13th. Game time from what I've seen, 4:30. But want to get into my preview today. I've started seeing some of the previews. There's some rankings, a new ranking come out today from Baseball America. I'll talk about in a minute. But I'm going to start off this preview. I'm going pitchers because I listened to a video from D1 Baseball. And I like D1 baseball stuff. I'm in disagreement with them on their assessment of the pitchers. Not that they talk bad about them by any means, but I think they're wrong on what they said on it as well. Hit that like, that share, that subscribe here as well. Tennessee, again, I mean, you basically return, three guys from last year's team? Tegan Coons, Braden Krenzel, Nick Abraham. And Krenzel and Coons, of course, pitched the most for Tennessee. Lots of guys left. Lots of, the roster limits were there. And frankly, with the roster limits, you had to cut down. And a lot of the guys that left too, I just don't see where they factored in here. Maybe a guy like Dylan Lloyd, but again, he's a dude that, I don't know, his role was kind of weird. I thought you never knew what they would do. He come up and started a super regional game, which was kind of out of left field. But, looking at what they've got this year, the one thing is, so D1 baseball, he's like, I see they've got a lot of 2 and 3 guys. They don't have that ace. I think they're wrong. I think they, as a matter of fact, I will go as far to say Tennessee has 3 aces on this staff. And now, is it from the proven standpoint? No, not necessarily. They've not proven an SEC player, and they don't get me wrong on that, but there are 3 guys with big-time stuff that should be in, and all 3 of them may not be in the weekend rotation. The 3 of them we'll talk about. One of them, we'll kind of see where they're at. But 4 guys are up for it, in my opinion. Tegan Coons, Landon Mack, Rutgers transfer, Brandon Arvidsson, Evan Blanco. And I'm leaning right now thinking it's Coons, Mack, Blanco. In no particular order. Me on it, here's what I'll look at with it as well here. Evan Blanco, he's a senior, fifth-year senior, if I'm not mistaken. He's not a super on it. Mark Hendy's the only super on it. But a guy, Evan Blanco, going into last season, was a second-team All-American preseason by D1 Baseball. And last year he went 3-5, 6.23 ERA, and 14 appearances. Not great numbers there. And I'm seeing people saying, well, this is going to be your Friday night guy. I don't see it. And, this is not me saying anything bad or anything, but I'm looking at 2 guys who were future first-round picks, Coons and Mack. Coons, this is his draft year. Mack will be here 2 years, hopefully. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. But those 2 guys have got first-round talent on them. And you look at it, too. I've been pretty vocal about how they handled Coons last year. I didn't like it. I thought it just made no sense. It made no sense. It was about par for the course with the pitching outside of the first 2 nights of the weekend, though. Mack was a big pickup, beat LSU out for him. He's a guy who comes over from Rutgers. Last year had a 4.03 ERA, 80 in the third innings pitched. So he's, definitely threw plenty of innings, 70 strikeouts on that one. Coons, on the other hand, last year, looking at his numbers, he was 36 and 2/3 innings, 40 strikeouts, had over a 5 ERA. And, he come out of the gates pitching really well. From the Texas A&M game, let's see, he gave up 4 runs there. There was the number of times here he, had the unearned runs too. His last 2 outings were definitely not his best, but, part of me wonders in that May 11th Vanderbilt game, he's cruising along. He's doing really good. 3 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, and Tony inexplicably pulled him at that point. That's got to mess with your psyche some. That's just me thinking on that, but I don't know. But here we are now. You've got Frank Anderson, of course, gone. Josh Reynolds in as pitching coach. Josh Enlander, your head coach. Tony Vitello out. Obviously, it's a different looking staff. There's some familiarity there with obviously Elander and Ross Kivett. And you're going to have other guys, Ricky Martinez, Kirby Cannell, some of these dudes still part of the program too. But Josh Reynolds, how will he do things any different from Frank Anderson? I'm kind of curious to see on that one. But again, you've got two guys there that are future first-round talents in Coons and Mack. That's where I'm coming out of the gate. If you look at the summer work that they put in, Coons goes to the Cape Cod League. He's dominant up there. He was having fun. He pitched really well up there. And I think I missed one of his starts, but I saw his last couple. And he's a guy who, and it's been termed to me, yeah, he may be a little sluggish out of the gate, or he may have a slow start, but he gets better as he goes along. And that was true when I watched him in the Cape. It was, maybe not a bad start, don't get me wrong, by any means on that, but a little, maybe pitch count up a little early. And then once he got on a groove, man, it was fun. It was fun to watch. I think you're going to have a hard time keeping him out of that Friday night slot. I really do. I think he's going to be approaching 100. His spin rate is really good. I've seen it that his changeup is really good right now in early winter workouts here. I would venture to say you go Coons, Mack, Blanco. And my reason, and I've seen people closer to who cover Tennessee not giving this rotation the credit. They're putting Blanco up there. And I think Blanco's a solid Sunday guy. I think he can be that. He's not going to have the stuff that Coons and Mack or even Brandon Arvidsson are going to have. I'm big on Arvidsson being a part of the rotation. And who's to say he couldn't be the main guy? To me, if you had those three dudes, that's a big-time rotation coming in. It is a big-time rotation with those three. But Arvidsson's role may be more bullpen, and, things can change, obviously. We know. Those four guys are going to pitch a lot of innings for Tennessee. They're going to be a vital part of the rotation. And I mentioned earlier, Baseball America put their rankings out today. They had Tennessee 13th. D1 Baseball, what they have them, 13th or 14th? Perfect Game had them 3rd. So there is some discrepancy there on it. Here's why I like the 13th and 14th rank. I don't agree with it, but that's a little fuel for the fire right there, because this team, I'm telling you, is absolutely loaded. They are loaded. Yeah, the pitching staff, there's not proven SEC arms. Guys, there's guys who pitched in the SEC, but maybe, there's not the Doyles, Beams, those type guys as of yet. But Liam Doyle come in last year, had an over 6 ERA too, and we saw how that worked out. I expect a big jump from Coons, and I'm curious to see with Braden Krenzel as well. I like his stuff. His biggest thing is avoiding the walk. So we'll go there with bullpen Krenzel. He's a guy I think will be a big part of it. Arvidsson or Blanco, depending on which one doesn't start. Right now, would lean towards probably Blanco in the bullpen, in the rotation, and Arvidsson not. You're going to have a midweek guy now with the lowered rotations. So I'm curious to see, is that going to be Nick Abraham or is it going to be Cam Appenzeller there? Because if you look at this schedule, I wanted to pull that up. I'm trying to see if you get into any of those where you have 2 midweek games, and that's where you're going to have 2 starters on the midweek. Trying to see. It really doesn't. Yeah, 1st of March, I've got ETSU in Oakland, March 3rd and 4th. That's the only week they have 2 midweek games. Okay, normally there might be a little more than that. So they'll have that out of the gate, but you're going to have that midweek starter. There's no doubt about that this year. But look at the rotation and what they brought in transfer-wise. They brought in Brady Frederick, ETSU, Southern Conference Pitcher of the Year. He's going to be more of a submarine sidearm dude. So he's going to add a change of pace. Last year's rotation bullpen, there was really not a lot of difference. Basically what you saw was guys throwing heat, but not a lot of difference. I mean, if you went from Snead to Franklin and some of these dudes, you really didn't see much difference in them. With this, I think there's definitely a difference in the makeup of this staff this year. I like this staff that they put together. I like the differences in it. So, I mean, my main guys I look at, I mentioned Krenzel on it. You're going to have Mark Hendy from Duke. He's going to be a guy, if I'm not mistaken, probably around 90 or so, and low 90s, but a crafty guy. He's been around a bit. He's a dude that he and Blanco, I think, have a lot of similarities there. I expect both of them around 90, but I think guys that can get the job done there. Bo Rudy, another transfer from Kennesaw State, comes in, and it's said that his fastball is really good. And from what I've seen, it's really hard to hit as well. I'm not sure if it's the movement on it or what it is, but here's the thing. I'm curious to see, does the approach differ at times? Because this was a thing last year, and some of us, we talked about it. They challenge guys too much, I think. You get 0-2, and then you're grooving a fastball right down the middle. No, that drove me nuts. Now, there were times the guys missed. Now, don't get me wrong. When the catcher is set up outside and you miss high and in, that's totally a miss. And every pitcher's going to miss at times. There's no doubt about it. But, that's been a thing. Frank was aggressive. And I'm curious, too, to see if there's more of an emphasis put on the base runner, because it was said numerous times that they didn't. And it was obvious last year they didn't, the way teams ran on Tennessee. I don't expect it to be the same this year, whether it's Stone Lawless or Garrett Wright. And it come out today, Garrett Wright is out 3 to 6 weeks with a broken bone in his hand. So shouldn't be too long, but I'm leaning towards it was going to be Stone Lawless starting anyway at catcher. You have Trent Grinlinger. I've seen people say possibly Levi Clark behind the plate. I don't see it. I see him more in the field at first and possibly even some outfield there. But looking at, again, the rest of the pitching, again, not a lot of guys returning on this staff. Of course, you had Anson Siebert, who left. I don't know if that was a mutual parting of the ways or what. It was a guy. It just didn't come together on him. And hopefully he gets things straightened out. But looking at your right-handed options, I mentioned Brady Frederick. He'll be a junior coming in. Mack and Coons, I expect them Friday, Saturday in the rotation. Bo Rudy will play. I think he'll be a big role out of the pen. Braden Krenzel will. And then you got some freshmen. Well, I mentioned Nick Abraham. I'm curious to see, is Abraham bullpen on the weekend or is he a midweek starter? I think you got to look at that. But then you got your freshmen, Sawyer Deering, Ari Bethea, Ethan Bioto was a guy who's pretty highly rated. I'm curious to see him and what he does. And then you have Jax Bishop. Don't really know a lot about him. DJ McDowell's a dude, a true freshman coming in that can throw some heat. They said in fall ball games he was bringing the heat. So I'll be curious to see him. And I think with these freshmen, get them out there and let them throw midweek. I think that's your best option. You've got to this year. Let them get some work in on these midweek games. I think that's pretty vital for them this week. Then you go to the left-handed side. Now, you've got a couple two-way. You got 3 two-way guys. Evan Hankins, you got Blaine Brown, and you got Taylor Tracy on it. So could we see those guys some midweek as well? That'll be interesting to see. Also, looking at the lefties, I mentioned Hendy. I mentioned Blanco. Cameron Appenzeller comes in, 6'5", 190. He was believed to be a high-round pick, ended up making it to campus. Could he be a midweek starter? Could he eventually work his way into, a weekend starting spot as well? A lot of eyes are going to be on him and what he brings as well. I mentioned Arvidsson. I'm curious to see him this year. Jackson Estes was a guy that they said could bring the gas, and unfortunately, he's out for the year. Now, Will Haas is another dude out of Minnesota out for the year. And then there's lefty Chandler Day. Not real familiar with him right now. But again, here's what I would tell you. If you're a pitcher on this staff, you can pitch. They're not going to have you on this team if you can't pitch. So there's some freshmen in here that I'm interested to see. And I think we'll see them some midweek would be my guess on that. And you may in that Nicholls State open weekend. I don't expect you're going to see your starting guys on the weekend going over 2 or 3 innings at most, maybe 4 at most, but because they're going to work them up as we go along. But I like this staff. I think there's a lot of high-end talent on this staff, and I can assure you Liam Doyle was not a top 10 pick coming into last year, and you saw what happened. Don't discount the fact that somebody like a Coons, Mac, some of these guys take that step this year, and they're in that conversation for high round picks. This team's going to be fun. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for February 13th. Got my ticket. It'll be my first time actually in Lindsey Nelson Stadium, so I'm pretty fired up about that as well. Pretty fired up to see this team. But we're going to get stuff out as the week goes along. We'll hit all the positions. And it's time. It's almost time. 25 days, and I cannot wait. This is Frank, House of Orange. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you when I see you.